All right, today we're going to be doing integer rules for adding and subtraction, and we've been doing the number line outside, and what I want to do is start putting the math together with it and try and do this, okay? So this first part right here has adding integers, okay? And so a lot of times y'all get confused on what exactly this means. Well, that is the addition sign, and so we're going to treat it as such right now. So you sometimes ask me, does it go with the number or does it not? Well, this is how we look at the rules. I am going to highlight the operation, and then I'm going to pay attention to what's going on in these rules right here. All right, so what I'm going to look for, the first thing is same sign. So let's look at this one right here. That 22 doesn't have a sign in front of it. If it doesn't have a sign, we know that that is a positive. We're going to ignore this right here, and we're going to look at just the 18. Does the 18 have a sign in front of that? Nope. It's a positive, so it's the same sign. So we're going to add those two together, and if we add 22 plus 18, we would get 40. And they're both positive numbers, so it's a positive. You do not have to write that positive. I'm just going to write it as an example. Now, on this one here, it is the same sign. Here we have a negative. Oops. We have a negative and a negative. One of the things I like to do is draw the direction I would go on a number line. If I was at 0, I would go that way, to the left. If I was standing at 0 for this number, I would go that way. If my arrows are facing the same direction, I'm going to add. So if we go up to this one, it would be that way, and then that way. Same direction, add. So 9 plus 13 is 22. Both of those are negative, and so my answer will be negative. Now, in case you're wondering, we're going to go back to this one up here. Think about it. If I was standing on 0, which way would I face? In turn, I would go 23 that way. Well, if I'm standing on 0, this is a positive 11. I would go that way. Are my arrows going the same direction? No. Therefore, I'm going to use this rule of different signs, and I'm going to subtract. 23 minus 11 would get me 12. So I can put 12 there. Now, how do I know which sign to use? Well, I'm going to look and see the absolute value, which one is larger. The absolute value of negative 23 would be 23. The absolute value of 11 will be 11. So that 23 is a larger number, the absolute value, and so it's a negative sign. So my answer is a negative. If you think about what we did on the number line, we would go this way, 23, and then this way, 11. We still haven't reached 0, so we're still in, you know how I say it, negative land. All right, so let's look at this one. We have a positive 4, and we're adding to it 10. Well, that 10, those are both positives, so that means I would both be going this direction. So I'm going to add. By the way, I didn't write subtract by this. So I'm going to add 10 plus 4 is 14. They're both positive, so I'm going to have a positive answer. On this one, I have a positive 7 and a negative 24. Just looking at the positive standing at 7, if I was standing on 0, I would go this way. Looking at negative 24, if I was standing on 0, I would go that way. My arrows are facing opposite directions, so I'm going to subtract. 24 minus 7 would give me 17. Again, with this one, you have to look at the signs. This is a positive 7. The absolute value of it would be 7. Negative 24. The absolute value of it would be 24. All you're doing is dropping the negative sign. And so that negative is in larger absolute value. So my answer is that. All right. So now we're going to talk about subtracting. And when we're talking about subtracting, we are specifically looking at the subtraction sign like that. Okay? So, again, we go through and we think about what is going on with our numbers. Here, I have positive 14. But you know, before I do that, I want to rewrite. Whenever I have a subtraction sign, I like to make it plus the opposite. So I have 14 plus, so I took care of this one. This is a positive 17, so that would be a negative 17 plus the opposite. So if you look over here, it says keep the sign of the first number, change the subtraction sign to an addition, and then change the sign to its opposite. If it's a negative, it would become a positive, and if it's a positive, which this one's a positive, so it becomes a negative. So when I do that now, I can see that positive 14 would go this way, negative 17 would go that way. They're going opposite directions, so I'm going to subtract. 17 minus 14 would give me 3. I'm kind of running out of space here. And the larger absolute value, this is 14. This would be 17. 17 is larger, so I'm going to use that negative sign. And my answer is a negative 3. Let me write that a little bit better. So here's one right here that I'm going to change. So I'm going to keep my number, 18. I'm going to change that subtraction to an addition. And I'm going to do the opposite. So that's a negative, so it would be a positive 22. We would go this way. Sorry, my pen's not working well. That way, and then that way. So it's the same direction. So we're going to add, and we get a positive 40. This one is very similar to that one. I'm going to rewrite it. I'm going to try it down under here to see if I can keep my space better. 12 plus, so I'm changing that. Now I'm going to do the opposite. That's a negative, so it'll be a positive. So 12 plus 11 would be a positive 23. That's about right, 32, can you tell? And then here we're going to keep our first number, change our sign, and then do the opposite. That's a negative, so it'd be 19. And then we would add them together, 22. And positive. And so here we would have 19, keep it, change the sign, 17 equals 2936. And it would be positive. Okay? So this, when we had this type right here, that is where we went 19 on the number line this way. We turned and faced the negative way, and then we went backwards 17. So that's why two negatives make a positive. Here we're walking that way. Here we're facing this way, but going backwards. I know that's not great. Okay, I do have some practice problems for you to try, and so we'll go from there.